Hi everybody. I thought I would talk to you while I make dinner tonight. I'm making yemitza right here, which is stuffed peppers with ground beef and onion and vegetables and tomato sauce and feta. I'm gonna have my parents over. But I just thought I would chat with you and prepare at the same time because I just recently went on a fairly lengthy trip to Greece and Turkey. And I had some really interesting experiences and observations that I thought would be really cool to just share and talk about with you. For those of you who know me, I live in Toronto, and also I work out of Miami and Fort Lauderdale as well. So I'm a North American gal. And at any rate, I just wanted to kind of share some interesting observations. So, you know, we started in Mykonos and we we spent several days there, and it was amazing. And it's always amazing because the hospitality it's really off the charts in Europe, but in particular in Greece. What do I mean by that? Well, you know, just take the hotel that we're staying at, for example. We stay at a hotel that we've been going to now for how many years? 7 years, actually, we've been going there. And the people there have become like family. And we try to come back every year to see them. And they're incredibly warm. And they take a lot of care and responsibility for making sure that we have a great time and that we go to the right restaurants and the right clubs and, you know, the right beaches so that we have an exemplary experience. And it's not done because they're expecting anything in return. It's done because that's the standard that they've set for themselves. And I'm sure there are places here in North America that mirror that type of ethos, but it's not that common. You know, it's not that common here, maybe in southern United States. But generally, you know, you go to a place and people are nice to you, they're polite, but they don't necessarily want to know you the way a family member would want to know you. So that was one thing. And then, you know, a lot of the restaurants that we go to when we're in Greece, they never just serve you a meal. They always offer something extra. And that's something I can say categorically almost never happens in Toronto. Like, rarely have I been to a restaurant where the proprietor would offer me an aperitif, for example, like a glass of champagne or a glass of Prosecco, or where they would just come and offer an appetizer that I hadn't asked for, or a dessert, or an after dinner drink. But that is the norm in Greece. That is not the exception. If you're not offered something in addition to what you've paid for, that would be very rare. So you go to a restaurant and the service is superb and they keep bringing you things that you didn't even ask for. And it's kind of a sign of respect, and it's sort of again, that ethos of hospitality, treating you kind of like you're a family member that's come to visit. And you're a treasured guest. So I think this is something that we could definitely learn from here in Canada, and probably in some places in the United States. Maybe, you know, there's still some really great restaurants and great cultures and different organizations around how they treat customers. So I don't want to, use a broad brush for all of North America, but man, Greece is absolutely amazing. And then I went to Istanbul for the first time in my life, and it's a huge city. I mean, the people that we met, like guides, the professional guides, they said that they were close to 25 million. So I'm not sure if that's Istanbul proper, or does that include all of the neighborhoods sort of outside of the city? But, it's at least in the 15 to 20 million person range, which is huge. Like, think about Canada, we're 40 million. So imagine half of Canada in one city, and that would be Istanbul. So I had this whole expectation that I was going to go to this place where it's going to be dirty, where I would be overwhelmed with sort of Islamic sort of mores and values, people covered up, and people sort of giving me the stink eye for wearing, something strapless, or a sleeveless dress or something like that, or a pair of shorts. And that was not the case at all. First thing is, you arrive, and you arrive to probably the most modern airport in the world. And apparently it is the largest airport in the world as well. And this airport looks like a museum, an architectural museum. The domes and ironworks and glassworks are just, they're incredible. They're incredible. So, I mean, you're looking at artwork, and you're looking at a functional airport, and you're looking at, one of the largest airports in the world. So that was a really really important messaging for somebody arriving from outside of Turkey into Turkey for the first time, which sort of gives you a sense of the country. So we visited so many places in Istanbul. We visited Topkapi Palace, which is the palace for all of the sultans and sultanas over hundreds of years. And of course, that Istanbul was Constantinople up until the 1500s, when Mehmet II waged war against the Byzantine rulers and basically won. Long story there. That's probably for another podcast or another vodcast. But a lot of the origins of Christianity and the Greek Orthodox Church are in Istanbul, or what was Constantinople. So a lot of churches and a lot of history behind early Christianity in Istanbul. And first of all, the city is pristine in terms of its cleanliness. Toronto should be absolutely ashamed of itself when comparing itself to a city like Istanbul. We are a fraction of the population. We, per capita, are much wealthier. So why our city is filthy, and filled with drug addicts and homeless people. Istanbul, I did not see one homeless person. I did not see one addict, even one on the street shooting up, or smoking up, or smelling hashish, or marijuana. Nothing. Cleanliness, safety, one of the largest pedestrian malls maybe in the world, outdoor, people walking in comfort and safety. Turkey is very much a secular nation. They do not ascribe to religiosity So therefore, people that are covering themselves, wearing a hijab or a burqa or niqab, these people are typically from outside of Turkey and do not live there. And this sort of secularism was started back in the early 1900s, actually after World War I, by a very famous ruler whose name was Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. So this guy is immortalized anywhere you look, anywhere in Turkey. There are probably thousands of statues of him, because he really brought the whole concept of westernizing and secularizing the nation and really moving it into sort of Western mind share and thought, and building on the concept of democracy, and again, Western values, very lofty Western values of personal and individual freedoms and rights, and jurisprudence and so forth. So really, I was impressed beyond words with Istanbul, and just the quality of the food, the restaurants, the hotels, just everything was A plus. It's rare that you go to a city where everything is at such a high standard. Usually you kind of have varying standards, and I'm not going to, I mean, obviously there are very, modest hotels or modest restaurants or local restaurants, but everything is done with that sort of passion for excellence. Like even when you go to a basic restaurant, a local restaurant, they pride themselves on service and hospitality. And again, they're always bringing you extra things, like extra things pop up or show up. They want you to try something new. They want to treat you to a drink or a cup of tea, Turkish tea, or they want to treat you to a dessert. So we had this experience over and over and over again. I mean, we even had the experience, imagine, of going to a Michelin star restaurant, which, typically is very hoity-toity, and, you don't really get anything extra when you go to a Michelin star restaurant. But at this particular one, we had like 3 courses of appetizers, which they just kept coming to the table with as amuse-bouche, as hospitality for us as new patrons. It was a rooftop restaurant. And then again, desserts, like we had ordered desserts, but they brought us additional desserts. And, it was always about bringing us something extra, doing something extra. And it's not just one thing, it's multiple things. And it's just that whole feeling of wanting to do more for people. So I thought that was absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. And, it's kind of funny. I cycled in Santorini, and when we were taking a break, we met this cute mom and daughter. The daughter was about 10, and the mom was, relatively young mom, and she was a doctor working in the UK. And I asked her what she did. She said she worked with criminals, helping criminals, especially those with addiction issues. And we talked about how Canada and UK handle addiction, the whole concept of safe injection sites, and really, promoting drug use, but in a safe way because it's monitored. All of a sudden it's safe, which I think is bullshit. No drug is safe, even an aspirin, if it's given to a person with the wrong condition. I talked about Istanbul, and I talked about the fact that there was no visible addiction or homeless issues. And, she kind of shrugged her shoulders. And I asked her, I said, do you think maybe we're setting the bar too low in Western nations like United Kingdom and Canada? on our expectations of our citizens. Because you have Turkey, which is not a great economy, by the way. They apparently have an inflation rate of about 40%. The average salary is about 15,000 Canadian. Now their housing costs are far more reasonable than ours, otherwise they wouldn't be able to live. And, I have no comment on the government because I know nothing about it. I know everybody we talk to can't stand Erdogan and his government. So I don't have any knowledge. I can't comment at all about, is he good, is he bad? I'm inclined to think he's not a great guy because he's a bit of a despot. But nonetheless, people were happy. They were out eating. They were out walking late at night. We're far more wealthy comparatively than they are, and I don't see that level of joie de vivre or people out in droves eating, drinking, and walking together, congregating in squares and in public areas. By and large, we tend to kind of stay on our own. We have our little hamlets, like Oakville or Port Credit or Unionville or whatever, but it's not on the scope and scale of something like of an Istanbul. And like I said, you don't see drug addiction. I mean, I'm sure it exists, but it's not visible to just everybody's eyes. It's behind closed doors. And what's more is it's frowned upon socially, and there are very severe penalties for those involved with drugs or anything of a criminal nature. And it's considered criminal to be involved with hard drugs, which is something that, our society really doesn't espouse. And you can see all the problems that we have. The other thing too I found really interesting is Turkey's response to illegal migration. My God, they are militantly against it. They do not want, even people coming from other Islamic nations, they do not want them in their country because they consider them destabilizing influences, bringing all kinds of philosophies and values that are not aligned with the values of Turkey. So we even experienced a checkpoint when we were being taken by a taxi driver from a historical site in Pergamon going to like a beach club. We passed through a security checkpoint by Turkish military checking our car to see if we are, castaways or stowaways. And the taxi driver basically said we were Americans, but of course we're not, we're Canadians. This happens everywhere across Turkey. Apparently in that bay just off of Pergamon, or a place called Dikili, which is one of the Turkish Riviera spots, they actually have hundreds of people try to illegally enter the country, and consequently there have been hundreds of people who've drowned in those bays. So Turkey was a real eye-opener. The other thing is the honesty of the people. At one point I bought some Turkish delight, and I was haggling with one of the shop sellers. And, as I was haggling, I was giving him money, and I put my wallet down. And luckily, all I had in my wallet was a credit card and a debit card, and I had some euros like in change, and that was about it, and my wallet. But I left it there, and then by the time I got back to the cruise ship, I realized that I had left it there, and I texted the shop, and I called them, and no one responded back to me, and we were leaving. It was Antalya. Or Alanya, sorry, Antalya, and we were going to Alanya the next day. And they did contact me the next day, but by then we were too far for them to bring the wallet. It was like a 3-hour drive. So I just said, keep the wallet as a gift, and just please cut up my credit cards. They didn't touch my credit cards. And they sent a video of themselves cutting up the cards. So I thought that was really, really nice. I'm not sure that that would happen in North America. I mean, in some places, yes, but by and large, leaving your wallet and credit card, I think there are very few people that would return it or try to return it. So I was really, really impressed with the level of honesty and integrity of the Turkish people, and also the Greek people as well. But the Turks surprised me the most because I didn't have any expectations. I didn't know what to expect. But I would say, wow, if you want to be really dazzled by great service and hospitality, great food, beautiful sights, Turkey is a lot greener than the Greek islands. Well, some of the Greek islands. The Cycladic islands are very stark, but you have the Dokadenese, and you also have the Ionian Islands, which are really nice too, very green. But Turkey is a lot greener, a lot greener than Greece, southern Greece, and so I just thought that it was a really, really interesting experience, and it blew away all my preconceptions about certain cultures and mores and values. And I think that's what traveling does for you. It sort of gives you another taste of the world. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to continue chopping up my gimista so I can make that for my parents and my hubby. But it was nice chatting with you. And I realized this wasn't, totally business oriented, but, there are some lessons learned for business, especially in the whole hospitality and travel sector here in North America. I think we've got to do a lot better than we're doing. And we need to change the culture of the organizations that we work in, whether they be hotels or restaurants or nightclubs, to really become great hosts and hostesses and treat people more like family rather than just numbers. So that's something I took away as well. Anyways, sending you all love, and I'll be chatting more on another topic, which is AI, and a really interesting conversation I had with a catamaran captain in the Aegean off of Crete. So I'll leave that for my next video. Take care, guys. Have a great evening. Bye.